Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we're making a chicken vegetable stir fry recipe. So without further ado, let's get started and I'll show you what I do. We're going to start by dicing 8 skinless and boneless chicken thighs. And if you know me, you know that I prefer the darker parts of the meat as opposed to chicken breast, just because I think they lock a lot more flavors in. So we're just going to get rid of the fatty bits and dice them all up and set aside. After that, we're going to wash our hands as well as the utensils used to slice the chicken. I'll be using a different chopping board, so I have chopping boards for meat, vegetables, fruits and the like. And it's really important that you do this, especially every time you handle meat, because you want to avoid any cross-contamination. Next, we're going to prep our vegetables. So I have a red and a green bell pepper, which I've washed, and I'm just going to dice them up into fairly big chunks. It's up to you what size you want these to be. And yeah, so we're going to dice them up and then going to get started on the onions. So I'm using red onion here because I quite like using red onions. I think they're quite sweet and nice. But if you don't have red onions, feel free to use white onions. Now onto our aromatics. I've got my pestle and mortar ready to receive the diced up ginger and 4 cloves of garlic, as well as some black pepper. And we're just going to mash this all up until we reach this consistency right here. It doesn't have to be entirely smooth. This here is just fine. And we'll be using this to season our chicken and for the stew at a later time as well. We can now bring everything together, so it's time to season the chicken. So I'm adding my aromatics, a little bit of all-purpose seasoning, also going in with some soy sauce. So this was about half a tablespoon of soy sauce, a little bit of olive oil, also adding some honey. So this is about a tablespoon of honey. Going in with some cornstarch, and I've used about a tablespoon, and we're going to mix this all up and let it marinate for about 20 minutes. I didn't film this, but I did mash up a separate batch of garlic and ginger to go into the stir fry at a later point. While the chicken is marinating, we can prepare our slurry or sauce thickener, if you will, and I just went ahead and added about a tablespoon of cornstarch, as well as some water and a little bit of all-purpose seasoning just for flavor. Mix this all up and set aside for a later point. Now onto the fun bit. We're going to sear our meat. So I just went in with about a tablespoon of olive oil. And searing meat usually implies cooking it at very high heat on both sides until it adopts very brown color and is about 80% done. And whilst you want all these things, you do want the meat to be done thoroughly, so more than 80%, about 99% if you will, because even though you will remove the meat at a later point and add it in, it's going to stay on the wok for not very long at all. Things are going to be moving very quickly from here on, so do ensure that your meat is cooked thoroughly. I'm frying my meat in batches, so about 3 batches in this case, and each batch must have taken me about 8 minutes to cook, and this is your result right here. And I would ensure that you just try and resist the temptation to snack on these because they are that delicious. Now going in with some mashed up garlic and ginger, and the reason why it's jumping like this in the wok is because the mashing process has rendered some water and it's rebelling against the oil. So if you had to do this, I would suggest that you just dice it up with a knife as opposed to using a mortar like a big shot like me. That was a mistake. So yeah, just something to think of. And now also adding the onion. So I left the ginger and garlic in there for no longer than 2 minutes. You don't want it to fry. And then leave your onions in for about 5 minutes and then go in with your remaining vegetables. The cooking time for these vegetables are going to depend on how hard or soft you like them to be. I like mine somewhere in between, so not too hard but not too mushy either. I know a lot of people like them quite hard when stir frying, so yeah, it depends on you entirely. So I just went in with some black pepper and all-purpose seasoning, mixing it all up, and this is going to be followed up by the slurry or sauce thickener that we prepared earlier. And I'm going in with a whole lot. I did this in stages just to see how thick it's going to be, but I'm now adding the remains. And I did actually add a little bit more water as well because I wanted quite a bit of gravy in there. So I'm basically feeling my way through this until I'm happy with the consistency, and now just going in with the chicken. So at this point you know that you're pretty much almost done. So just incorporate everything together and admire the lusciousness right there. The kitchen is smelling so amazing. I can especially sense the ginger coming through. Ginger has such a lovely smell. You can always sense it when you've used it in your cooking. And yeah, this is pretty much your end result. Your chicken vegetable stir fry is done, delicious and perfect, served up with rice or noodles or any accompaniment that you desire. It's entirely up to you. But yeah, I thought I'll go with our usual rice and just garnishing it up a little bit, and voila. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and give me a big thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you very soon on my next video.